In these past few years, we have gotten some great horror films such as Megan, Hereditary, Midsummer, and many other movies. I mean, yeah, there were some movies that weren't the best, but there sure was a demand in horror movies, and especially for the classics. But the best part about horror movies is that there are a lot of genres to choose from, like found footage, slasher, or ghost. But some genres get more recognition than others. Some may say that horror movies could be dead or are dying, but I don't think so. I feel like some of them are a bit stale or some parts are a bit repetitive. And yes, that means I'm looking at you. You know who you are. But slasher genres and others like it are starting to get a bit stale. But there are some hidden gems in there that I can't deny, and that are worth watching. I mean, have you seen Terrifier 2? Actually, if you got the stomach for it, then go ahead. But if you don't and you still watch it, then good luck, man. But as of recently, there has been a horror movie that's been getting recognition, and it's been showing up all over my TikTok, and I just had to talk about it, and its genre, and that movie is Skinamarink. Out of all the horror movies that I've seen, this one really had me creeped out throughout the whole movie, and actually made me feel fear, but it kept increasing as the movie kept going. The plot of this movie is two children in their home suddenly wake up at night to find out their dad isn't home, and that the windows and doors are completely gone, and there is an unknown entity with them. This entity lures them out or tries to communicate with the children in the movie for some unknown reason. Most horror movies have a build-up, loud creepy music, then jump scare. And there are moments like that through horror movies, and I'm not gonna lie, some of them work, but after a while it gets repetitive. The audio and cinematography both work as one, because the audio really represents the shots on this film, and it helps you feel on edge.
Kaylee.
The characters in this movie works well because having children be the main characters or the main victims of this movie makes us feel more empathy towards them. And naturally, we don't want nothing bad happening to children. The setting, it all works in Skinamarink. It makes you think that there's gonna be a jump scare, but there's hardly any, and it just keeps you in this anticipation, and it actually works, and the movie is able to rekindle that childhood fearness of the dark. There are some scenes where it will just pan into the darkness and it feels like there might be something there, or not. But it keeps playing with your intuition and your fear. There were hella times where I thought there might be something that I saw in the corner of the shot. But no, there's no prop, all there is darkness. But that's the cool thing about the movie. It doesn't need the over-the-top budget to scare you. And it lets you use your imagination of the scary shit that could be happening in the dark. But you might be like, man, the dark don't scare me. But don't lie, every person was scared of the dark, and even you at one point. The cinematography in this movie works well in this setting, and with fuzzy images that acts more like a nightmare, and act like a distant memory, almost like a fever dream. It really puts you right in that atmosphere in the movie. But in the end, this ain't your traditional horror movie that we are all adjusted to. We are really adjusted to a lot of dialogue and all fast-paced story. But this movie is really slow, and barely contains any of that. It mostly just contains shots of around the house and barely even shots of the children full figure. And there isn't even much dialogue. But when there is, it sounds really distorted, almost like a memory, and sounds really fucking creepy. But not to mention, this movie has some cons, and I feel like it's not really talked about on TikTok or YouTube. But I'll say this, it feels like it is really dragging at some parts of the movie, and you're just in this dream sequence for an hour and a half long, maybe even more. To me, I feel like less is more for these type of films, but honestly, to me it feels like every shot matters, and that is a primary thing in this film. It brings nostalgic TV, toys, sounds, and etc. Not to mention, bro, the movie takes place in the 90s, I believe, but there may be times where you think to yourself, what the hell is going on? This movie is really experimental, and I know that many people will call this boring, and I don't blame them. But if you are really open-minded to new things, then please give it a watch. But a little bit of information of Kyle Edward Ball, the director of Skinamarink, is that this guy has been uploading similar content of this movie, but on his YouTube, called Bite Size Nightmare. His first ever video on his channel that I know of was posted on May 10, 2017, called Nightmare 1. Surprisingly, the video quality and the audio is really similar to Skinamarink, and his YouTube channel doesn't have a ton of subscribers, but it still has some really good videos. But if you like analog horror and this type of genre, then go subscribe to him. Not to mention, give his older videos a watch too, they're really good. There's also a video called Heck in his YouTube channel, and it's one of the most viewed, and I strongly recommend it. But this movie was a success. Its budget was only $15,000, and it made $2 million in the box office, which isn't bad and pretty good for a small production. But seeing that this movie is starting to get more and more recognition, so will its genre, and that genre is called analog horror, and it's a bit more like found footage. Instead of witnessing events of characters going through scary shit like Paranormal Activity and those other films, but we instead are the targets of the horror and thrills. Honestly, you could say Poughkeepsie Tapes, Blair Witch, Wreck, and gems like those movies inspire the analog horror genre. More so Blair Witch though. The analog horror genre can make you, the viewer, feel like you might become a part of the story, and that makes you more interested in it. There are really good examples like the Mandela Catalog, the Minerva Alliance, the Smile Tapes, and there is even a Sonic one. Yeah, you heard that right. These analog horror videos are what sparked and made other people interested in it, and its genre, and it's gained the attention of Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and many others. But what makes analog horror so special? Well, it doesn't need a ton of gore and jump scares, but is that it lets you use your imagination and think about the scary shit that could be happening. And there's a lot of the anticipation like in Skinamarink. Now I'm not gonna say that gore in movies or jump scares are not scary, because some are, and some gore scenes in movies are highly disturbing, but some of them can only offer that and not much else. As an analog horror, it uses its traits and its really interesting concept or story to make you immersive while trying to keep you in anticipation. Usually for analog horror, there's an interesting plot or concept, and these are what keep you interested in it. For instance, you have the Mandela Catalog, which focuses on the alternates, or doppelgangers, which makes their victims kill themselves. There's also the Walton Files, which is pretty much a bit similar to that of Five Nights at Freddy's, but it is really lore based. But these videos influence other creators to make more of this type of content, and if the right person is really talented, then they could get the attention of Hollywood and other film producers. The recognition that Skinamarink is getting is a good thing, and you're also getting praise from other articles online. You have really huge praises from other film directors, New York Times, the AV Club rating, and most of them have said this: we have a long way to go in 2023. The Skinamarink is already getting a top contender for the year's most frightening film, which is crazy because it is only experimental. Most of these movies that are experimental never really work out, but this one really did. Although it did get some feedback that people said it was boring or it wasn't really that good, which is pretty understandable. This is one of those movies that could get the recognition of its whole genre. If the analog horror genre starts to get more frequent in the movie business, then I'm pretty sure we will see other movies like Skinamarink, and maybe even better. I also feel like the budget for these movies won't be too high, because most of them don't need an over-the-top budget, and some of them were able to gain millions of views. Also, there needs to be something new in mainstream horror media, and as we are in a new decade, then analog horror could soon be in it, but by then, we can just sit and watch the genre increase in popularity, and also be really open-minded of the film, because it ain't really for everybody. But again, thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you guys the next time. Peace out.